Aha! Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds, and welcome to the Burial Mounds. I'm Wei Wuxian, and I am excited that you have decided to come visit. Ah, while you're here, we have some rules. We do not get sponsored by anyone except Lanzan, who happens to be visiting today. Oh, I see that Chi Kiki has decided to come visit too. Welcome to the burial mounds. How are you today? While Lanzan was here, he actually decided to bring a few gifts. Oh, I'm glad you're good. He brought me a whole pot of chilies, which I'm very excited about, though they don't seem very crunchy. No, must be a bad batch. Oh, hello, Cookielicious. Welcome to the burial mounds. How are you doing? Oh, the chili spell. Okay. Lanzan was also really cool and brought something special. It's not Emperor Smile, but it's close. Oh, thank you so much, Cookielicious. It's been a journey, and I'm really excited to continue it. Um, Along with Lanzan, it seems like when Nai Huasang happened to come by and send a paperman with some stories that we can read tonight, especially some recommendations. The first of which seems to be from a book series called Scum Villain. What an odd name. So it seems like this story is called Two Lilies Black and Two Lilies Gray by Textualize. And it seems like Textualize has a number of Shenzhou-focused stories that sound pretty good. Oh, hello, Annika, and welcome to the burial mounds. We don't have much, but we do have stories. Thank you. So this is one of the ones that a lot of people seem to go back and reread. So this one in particular, Nai Huisong says, really puts Shenzhou through the ringer, but is reliable or relatable and written in a very emotionally driven and deep way that really hits you in the feeling. Oh, hello, Momar's Rover, and welcome to the burial mounds. I hope you're doing well today. And thank you. So that's the first one that Nai Huasong recommended. And it looks like there's even one that someone wrote about me. It's called Turn a Little Faster by Apathy and Reverie. So, it appears like it's still in the works, but it's basically complete and very well written. This author apparently is another one that's a favorite and one that people commonly go back to. It has just a short summary. Apparently it's got Lan Wanji in it too. Wenji is just really, really confused. Or a time travel AU where Wei Wuxian kind of assumes he must be hallucinating and behaves accordingly. Hopefully Nai Huasong will send some more works next time. Oh no, it looks like Ayuan got into my flute and bit it, so I guess we're not going to have any music tonight. That's okay. I still have to read him his bedtime story, though. Before that, I wonder if there's anything new in your lives. I don't get lots of company here at the burial mounds, though I did help Popo move around some things around the burial mounds and clean up things this past weekend. There wasn't much else to do here, though, so I don't know. Hopefully you all had a much busier weekend than this one. Not quite Emperor's Smile, but anything in a drought. That being said, if anyone has anything they'd like to share, I'd love to hear it. As well, thank you so much for 100 subscribers. I really appreciate it, guys. Now, back to this bedtime story that I've been reading Ayu on. It's not the most kid-friendly, but there's not much we can do about that here in the burial mounds. Can only do our best. Thank you, Chichi Kiki. Yes. Last time, I remember we got to a point where this system proposed a reward for Heart of Compassion, being an ancient medicine prescription. I bet Wen King could probably whip up something even better, but they don't have the best doctor in the land, so they make do with what they have. Now, it says that in order to get it, you have to begin the mission Heart of Compassion. Seems worth it. Ancient medicine prescription sounded pretty good. It was better than nothing. Isn't that true? If he didn't need it, then he just hold on to it. It might become useful one day. Besides, he wasn't doing it for the reward. He truly did want to help the abandoned Lady Liang. Oh, a fellow doing justice for good. I appreciate that. Isn't that right, Long John? Yes, it's right. Along with me, Lan Wanji will occasionally pop in. We might even get some showings from Wen Ning, just to keep things interesting. So, chapter 120, Fishy rescuing the Emperor. Ooh, that sounds delightful and strange. I like it. Having decided he'd help Lady Liang, Li Yu didn't want her to have to make another trip, so he pulled her along directly with Prince Jing to ask to see the Emperor. The Emperor was surprised that Li Yu wanted to help her, but he remembered the way Li Yu educated her children. Or his children. Li Yu was a kind-hearted person, he concluded. That's what he wants. What about you? The Emperor asked. Prince Jing, wanting to know his opinion. Prince Jing nodded, showing that he supported Li Yu. He sounds like Lan Zan. In that case, I'll allow it. The Emperor was happy to give Prince Jing and his spouse what they wanted. He thought of reminding them both about something, but after a moment of thought, he decided to keep it to himself. I wonder what's going to happen. Li Yu quickly told Lady Liang the news. She was afraid that the guards would stop her, so he asked Li Yu to go with her. He hesitated for a moment, but he thought he should see things through to the end. So with Prince Jing's agreement, they all accompanied Lady Liang to the tent where the sixth prince was being held. Ah, that's right. The last time I read this, Lady Liang had requested to see the sixth prince who was being detained. They couldn't go any farther. Li Yu had to be careful, and besides, it wasn't like he was the one who wanted to see the sixth prince. Lady Liang entered the tent, thanking him the entire way. When she saw Mu Tianxiao covered in dirt with his hands and feet bound, she couldn't stop the tears flowing from her red, swollen eyes. She's too good for this prince. Su Yun, why are you here? Mu Tianxiao was elated to see his wife. The guards responsible for him didn't let him see anyone, so how would she manage to get in? Did this mean the Emperor was relenting a little? Did Royal Father tell you to come? He asked anxiously. Has he forgiven me? It was me. I begged Prince Jing and his consort for help, so Royal Father showed me some mercy. Lady Liang explained timidly, afraid the sixth prince would be upset. Prince Jing again? Mu Tianxiao's expression changed as soon as he heard Prince Jing's name, and he pushed his wife's hand away impatiently. Why did you ask him of all people? Don't you know he's the one who did this to me? Technically, you're the one who did this to yourself. He's just the one that didn't put up with your shit. Just for clarification's sake. Having reflected on his failure, the Sixth Prince believed he'd fallen into one of Prince Jing's traps. Kind of. The Emperor must have started targeting him because he believed Prince Jing's lies. The Sixth Prince blamed everything on Prince Jing. Lady Liang wiped her tears, unsure how to answer. Should she tell him that nobody was willing to help them now? Since Mu Tianxiao was already locked up, there was no need for him to keep hiding his true nature. He started cursing out Prince Jing's family, even the young children. It was hard to listen to. After he was done, he seemed to finally remember something. He turned to look at Lady Liang, his tone turning gentle. Su-Yun, don't cry. He wiped the tears from her face. Since you're here, can you help me beg Royal Father? He said expectantly. He'll definitely let me out for the sake of our unborn child. I'll be good to you in the future, I promise. Remember that he's also brought in concubines. So, not being the best judge right now. Or example of being filial to his wife. Lady Liang listened to his repeated assurances, but her heart stung when she saw the fake smile on his face, devoid of warmth. How could she have been tricked by this man before? This husband of hers looked gentle on the surface, but he only ever thought of himself. Liu and Prince Jing were standing outside the tent, and they could hear the Sixth Prince cursing them. Prince Jing was used to people talking about him like that, and he didn't mind it, but when the Sixth Prince started cursing out Xiao Yu and the children, his expression darkened and his grip on his sword tightened. Liu grabbed his arm. Tianqi, don't. When Liu first heard the Sixth Prince cursing out his sons and his husband, he also wanted to march in there and beat him up. But there was no way he could let Prince Jing actually walk in there and teach the Sixth Prince a lesson. Wu Tianxiao is the Emperor's prisoner right now, so it wasn't appropriate to beat him up in front of everyone. There's that little extra bit in the end, in front of everyone. I bet he's going to do it later. My boy holds a grudge. Prince Jing's current status meant that he could make the Sixth Prince's life a little harder, but there was no need for him to handle anything personally. It would make the Emperor suspicious. Liu whispered a few ways to humble the Sixth Prince into Prince Jing's ear, and when he was finished, Prince Jing stared at him, speechless. This was the same man who'd been soft-hearted enough to help Lady Liang just now. Yeah, well, you threatened his babies. He ain't gonna do shit if you threaten his babies, Liu mischievously stuck out his tongue. Those two things are different. Lady Liang is quite pitiful, but the Sixth Prince has done so many evil things. I wouldn't forgive him just like that. Xiao Yu was always reasonable. Prince Jing patted his head and smiled, convinced. The Sixth Prince started throwing out ugly curses again. The two of them looked at each other and pretended not to hear anything. Lady Liang hasn't just come to see how the Sixth Prince was doing. She'd been hoping he would realize the error of his ways and live a peaceful life from now on. She really deserves better. Let's be real. She seems like a really sweet lady, and she's just got hoodwinked by the Sixth Prince. So I hope she figures her shit out and is able to get out of this situation. The Sixth Prince wanted the throne, and Lady Liang, who was his spouse, had more or less figured it out. In the past, she'd thought that a wife shouldn't get in the way of her husband's ambitions, and besides, what woman didn't fantasize about having a higher status? And so, she never stopped him, but she didn't participate either. She regretted being so delusional in the past. How much better things would be now if she'd convinced him to stop back then. She didn't dare hope for anything else, only her husband and child to be safe. Isn't that what we all want? Just to be safe, healthy, have enough? His eyes widened in disbelief. It was one thing if she didn't want to help him, but why was she criticizing him now? Her status as a prince's consort was all thanks to him. What good would it do her if the emperor kept him locked up? The Sixth Prince was furious, but he had another plan. He gave her a thin smile. You're right. Suyun, come here. I have another secret to tell you. Lady Liang was utterly unguarded against him, so she came closer. Only for Mu Tianxiao to coldly wrap his chains around her neck. Tianxiao, what are you doing? She screamed, horrified. Don't move. Mu Tianxiao kept a tight grip around her neck and shouted towards the outside. Someone come! I want to see the emperor, or else I'll kill her. I'll kill her. Those 3 words shattered the relationship between the Sixth Prince and Lady Liang. She looked at him tearfully, feeling as if her heart was slowly being squeezed to death. What a dick. Prince Jing and Liu were just outside, and they rushed in with the guards as soon as they heard the commotion. Liu didn't know what to say when he saw the Sixth Prince's hold on his consort. With his bloodshot eyes and fierce expression shouting that he wanted to see the emperor, the Sixth Prince looked like a demon. And I'd know. The guards were already running to report the incident. Yeah, it seems like he belongs at the burial mounds too. Watching Lady Liang struggle, Liu wanted to help, but he was afraid that the Sixth Prince would actually hurt her. Mu Tianxiao, have you no conscience? He spoke up on her behalf instead. She's your wife. She's pregnant with your child. How come he was always running into situations that turned out worse than the original book? The Sixth Prince scoffed a couple of times, and a tear seemed to flash in the corner of his eye. I might not even be able to save myself, he said indifferently. Why would I need a wife or child? Soon, the emperor arrived, and he was furious at the Sixth Prince's threats. Mu Tianxiao, are you insane? He bellowed. Let go of Lady Liang. Royal Father, you're here. Please listen to me one last time. I just realized that I didn't do anything wrong. I was framed by Prince Jing. Royal Father, you don't know what a scheming person he is. He planned everything. Mu Tianxiao tried his hardest to defend himself while Prince Jing stood there and listened, unmoved. The emperor shook his head in disappointment. That's enough, Tianxiao. Weren't you the one who tried to frame concubine Liu? Didn't you bribe Imperial Physician Pan? Didn't you send someone to sneak into Prince Jing's manor to steal Da Bao's blood? Did Prince Jing force you to do all this? Yeah, I agree, Mars Rover. I also feel really bad for his wife, and the fact that she's pregnant too, like everything, like none of this is her fault or doing. Like she's the innocent party in this. Like, I mean, yes, she knew he had ambitions, but like what prince doesn't in this situation? Like, yes, I agree. Hopefully she gets a nice peaceful life. After all, I strive to protect the innocents and do justice, and she definitely is an innocent in this. Wu Tianxiao was stunned. Royal Father. Yeah, this poor woman with this awful man. Yeah, agreed. Chi-Chi-Kiki, agreed. Wu Tianxiao was stunned. Royal Father? How did the Emperor even know about him sending someone to extract Da Bao's blood? It was like he'd suddenly been enlightened. Mu Tianxiao finally figured it out. So, Prince Jing had already guessed what he was going to do from that very moment. How funny. When he thought he had had an advantage over the other party, They were already waiting for him to fall into a trap. Royal father! Prince Jing really was plotting against me! Mu Tianxiao was furious. He wanted to expose Prince Jing. That's enough, the emperor interrupted him icily. Why should I believe someone who doesn't even care for his wife and child over Prince Jing? Tianxiao, there's a phrase you've said before to escape punishment. I return it to you now. All of this is just one side of a story. Royal father, Mu Tianxiao was stunned. He started laughing as if the emperor had just told a joke. After he was done laughing, he gritted his teeth, staring fiercely at Prince Jing and the emperor with the gaze of a trapped beast. Nonsense! You just favor Prince Jing! You've never believed me! An imperial guard moved behind the sixth prince and struck his neck. At the same time, the sixth prince yelled hoarsely, Do it now! No! Liu realized that one of the sixth prince's people must be in the tent with them. Someone had taken advantage of the chaos and tried to stab the emperor. This was the sixth prince's final plan, to attack the person he hated the most at a critical moment. Mu Tianxiao hated his birth and hated Prince Jing, who took everything from him. But he hated his father the most. His father, the one who never liked him no matter how hard he tried to please him. The one who never took him seriously. He knew the emperor wouldn't kill him, but he couldn't stand the thought of going back to the invisible person he used to be. In that moment, Liu was closest to the emperor, so he pushed him aside. But it was too late to dodge, and he was left vulnerable to the dagger. Xiao Yu! Millions of shouts burst in Prince Jing's chest, and he ran over frantically, his sword drawn. Time seemed to stand still. Liu closed his eyes in fear. The sounds of wind and human chaos echoed in his ears. He waited. There was no pain? Liu opened his eyes. There was a palace servant holding a dagger in front of him. The tip of the dagger was only a finger's length away from him. With a clang, the dagger fell to the ground. Prince Jing's sword had pierced through the servant's chest from behind. Oh, Prince Jing had saved him. Tianxi, I'm fine, Liu yelled, his voice rough with emotion. Prince Jing pulled his sword out coldly and kicked the servant to the side. Liu rushed towards him, and Prince Jing embraced him. The imperial guards had pinned the sixth prince to the ground so he couldn't move, while Lady Liang had been rescued and was watching in horror. The sixth prince was devastated. In the end, he still wasn't able to even touch the emperor's dragon robes. He suddenly noticed a beauty dressed in palace robes amongst the tumultuous crowd. That person was as beautiful as an immortal in a painting and was watching quietly with apathetic, delicate eyes. Oh, I think we know who this is. Oh, but first... Oh, it's too close for comfort. Mu Tianxiao stared avidly at this person for a while before he remembered who it was. This was the emperor's new concubine, noble Lady Chu, a chess piece that he had personally delivered onto the emperor's bed. His. Yue, help me, Mu Tianxiao begged silently as he lay on the ground. He still had hope. Chu Yanyu was his last hope. Chu Yanyu seemed to have seen him too. He smiled at him from a distance, as gently as he once had in the past. Then, he turned around and left without any hesitation, taking Mu Tianxiao's hope with him. The emperor was unharmed after that false alarm, but he no longer intended to show any mercy to the sixth prince, who had dared to try assassinating him. Just kill me, Mu Tianxiao muttered as he was tied up and taken away by the guards. Lady Liang knelt on the ground, sobbing. Tianxi! Liu held on to Prince Jing tightly. He'd been so terrified just now. At the time, he was thinking about the Grandpa Emperor who was kind and affectionate to his children. But the Emperor was also Prince Jing's father. The Sixth Prince's assassination attempt had been so sudden that the only thought in Liu's mind had been saving the Emperor. Prince Jing didn't blame Liu for being reckless. Instead, he hugged him and patted his head. Perceptively, Liu noticed that Prince Jing's complexion seemed a bit off his head. Perceptively, Liu noticed that Prince Jing's complexion seemed a bit off. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Liu asked, concerned. Something really did seem to be bothering Prince Jing. He gently let go of Liu and pressed his hand to his chest. Uh-oh. That's not good. Liu had never seen him wheeze so severely. Prince Jing suddenly coughed several times and a streak of black blood steeped out between his fingers. Tianxi? What's wrong? Liu was terror-stricken. You like that the scheming, lying Sixth Prince get betrayed by another scheming person in the end, who he thought was his pawn. I mean, yes, definitely yes, Momar's Rover, but also Chu Yanyu's been through some shit for the Sixth Prince and finally was like, you didn't help me when I needed help. I'm done being your pawn. I have no benefit helping you, and you clearly couldn't care less about me when I needed help. So very much returning the favor there. Chapter 121. This fish loves him so much. The Emperor was panicking too. Nothing could be allowed to happen to Prince Jing. He quickly ordered the guards to take Prince Jing back to his tent and summoned all the imperial physicians to examine him. Yeah, it's definitely satisfying that the Sixth Prince is kind of getting his comeuppance a little bit. But yeah. The Emperor was, that's right, they're still at the hunting ground. This is all taking place, in a tent on a field. We're not back at the palace yet. Prince Jing had thrown up blood. Liu was even more frantic than the Emperor. From what he knew, only heavily injured or a serious illness could make someone throw up blood. Prince Jing didn't even have any injuries, so was he sick? Right? I kind of forgot it for a moment too until I saw a tent. They'd been together the whole day and he hadn't even noticed. What kind of incompetent consort was he? Liu felt remorseful and worried. When the guards came to take Prince Jing away, Liu jumped up and insisted on going with them. Even though he'd just vomited blood, Prince Jing was still clear-headed, and he held Liu's hand as he lay in the sedan, hoping it would calm him down. By the way, that reminded me, even though we haven't had a sob yet, that would be a very sob moment for Liu. Our current count for book 4 is actually 0, and our current yeet count for book 4 is also 0. And I forgot to say this, but this is the second reading for book 4. No matter what Prince Jing gestured, Liu agreed to it. But how could he possibly keep it together on the inside? If Prince Jing fell sick, his whole world would collapse. Then what would he do? Some people, when overwhelmed with too much stress, would respond by settling into an extraordinary calm. That was happening to Liu right now. I kind of find it funny that that's Liu's reaction to stress is extraordinary calm, because he's not that, based on his personality, you wouldn't really think that's how he would react with extraordinary calm. But I digress. I guess I should probably put the bangs back. There we go. He still had children. No, he really doesn't seem the type at all. I agree, Momar's Rover. He still had the children. If Prince Jing was sick, Liu still had to support his family. Yeah, you were waiting for them to say, but Liu was not one of those people. I think that's kind of a fun personality trait, that if he does react that way, especially with his whole sob thing, like, you'd think it could be different, but anyway. He couldn't just wallow in misery. He had to think of the children and come up with ways to help Prince Jing. When they got back to their tent, Liu dried his eyes and went to check on the children, who were being taken care of by Wang Shi. They were happy to see their fish dad, but Liu unfortunately had to let them know that Daddy Prince Jing was sick, so they had to behave and were going to be left in Wang Shi's care again. Wang Shi was beside himself with concern when he learned that Prince Jing was ill, but the consort was right. The young masters needed to be taken care of, and he couldn't let the prince worry while he was sick. Wang Shi knelt down and begged Liu to take good care of Prince Jing. Liu agreed. He went to stay beside him, watching Prince Jing unblinkingly. It does really give him depth, though. I agree, Momar's Rover. I think technically, though, we saw it dried his tears, so it wasn't a sob, but it was tears. So I am marking it because we need some sobs in this story. So we have one sob. The imperial physicians came in waves, and each time they advised Liu to go rest, but Liu just sat there and ignored them unless he was asked about Prince Jing's condition. Tianxi, how do you feel? Liu cupped Prince Jing's cheek worriedly. Prince Jing smiled at him. It wasn't a big deal. After he'd spat up that blood, Prince Jing's complexion improved and his breathing steadied. Liu felt that Prince Jing was telling the truth, but the imperial physicians examined him again, and for some reason they wouldn't tell him what was wrong. The longer the examinations went on, the more anxious Liu felt. If the imperial physicians weren't saying anything, did that mean that the illness was so severe that even the imperial physicians weren't sure if they could cure it? Hello, Esper Lady. Welcome to the burial mounds. What's happened so far is this Lady Liang went to see the Sixth Prince. The Sixth Prince kind of lost it a little bit. Tried to convince her, like, hey, can you help me get help from the Emperor? Convince him it was all a misunderstanding, a mistake, I was framed. Lady Liang mentions that a mistake, I was framed. Lady Liang mentions that Prince Jing and Xiao Yu are the ones helping her to get this meeting in the first place. And he freaks out. Like, why would you go ask them? They're the reason I'm in here. Ends up kind of grabbing Lady Liang, has the chain around her neck, and is demanding the Emperor to come see him, or he'll strangle her. And basically the Emperor comes, and the prince tries to assassinate the Emperor with, like, one of his pawns. And as he's, like, on the ground, they get Lady Liang out of there, and he sees Chu Yanyu in, like, the tent flap, and he's like, help me, basically. And Chu Yanyu turns away, and the Sixth Prince, like, just is stuck dealing with his own problems, which was kind of satisfying. Oh, and thank you. And so now, Prince Jing, all of a sudden, Liu almost got stabbed, and then Prince Jing stops it right before it happens. And, right, as he deserves. and then coughs up black blood. So that's kind of where we are right now. The Imperial physicians are looking at him, testing, and they're not telling Liu anything. The longer the examination went on, the more anxious Liu felt. If the Imperial physicians weren't saying anything, did that mean that the illness was so severe that even the Imperial physicians weren't sure if they could cure it? After some discussion amongst the physicians, an older Imperial physician approached them. Your Highness, Prince Jing, I have some more questions for you. Please tell me the truth. Liu looked at Prince Jing, curious. If the Imperial physician asked a different question, Prince Jing would have to write. Was he well enough to do that right now? Prince Jing was feeling better, so he nodded in response. Liu immediately went to the table to fetch a brush and paper. Your Highness, before you threw up, did you feel any discomfort? Asked the Imperial physician. Prince Jing wrote, My ki and blood surged, my chest was in pain, and my throat burned. Have you ever had a similar incident, Your Highness? The Imperial physician asked carefully. Prince Jing thought back carefully, then nodded and wrote, Yes, but I didn't vomit blood. Then, Your Highness, do you remember the first time it happened? Prince Jing hesitated, then wrote, Over a year ago. Over a year ago? Liu's eyes reddened. Why didn't you tell me? Prince Jing quickly wrote, You were sick with a cold, and I was unwell because I was anxious. It got better quickly, so I didn't think much of it. A cold? Liu was very healthy, and he rarely ever caught little colds or the like. He paused for a moment before he remembered that this had happened early on when Prince Jing proclaimed his love, back when Liu hadn't realized his own feelings yet and was fighting with Prince Jing. Back then, all he cared about was how unhappy he was, so he didn't notice Prince Jing's illness or discomfort. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Liu was so despondent he almost started crying. Prince Jing quickly shook his head. It had nothing to do with you. I didn't pay attention to it. While Prince Jing tried to comfort Liu, the older Imperial physician discussed Prince Jing's answer with the other physicians present, then took his pulse again. As for the Emperor, he shouldn't have come over personally to check on Prince Jing, but how long the Imperial physicians were taking to come to a conclusion was making him worried, so he had come to Prince Jing's tent himself. What's wrong with Prince Jing? He asked. After everything that had happened, the Emperor had already decided on Prince Jing as his successor. He didn't want anything to happen to him. Since the Emperor came to talk to him personally, the older Imperial physician looked around and asked the Emperor to step aside to speak privately. The Emperor complied. The Imperial physician knelt and said, Your Majesty, after much examination, it seems that Prince Jing has been poisoned over a long period of time, as he just experienced a serious and stressful incident. This caused His Highness's ki and blood to surge, making him vomit out some of the poisonous blood in his body, which led to its discovery. Dun, dun, dun! This probably has to do with that nursemaid, which might be why it's one of those secrets. Poisoned? Prince Jing was shocked, as were Liu and the Emperor. How could he have been poisoned? Was it the 6 princes doing? Liu felt like his heart was in his throat. Imperial physician, what poison is it? He asked hurriedly, ignoring the Emperor. Is it curable? What do you mean by over a long period of time? Considering what Prince Jing said earlier, had he been poisoned for over a year? He vomited black blood because he was poisoned? The Emperor didn't mind Liu's rudeness. Answer quickly, he said. I want to know as well. The Imperial physician took a moment to organize his thoughts. Your Majesty, please allow me to answer the last question first. We've concluded that the poison in His Highness's body has been there for decades, and it was only this year that the toxicity subsided a little, leading to his ki and blood surging and the poison's discovery, he said respectfully. Decades? The Emperor was shocked. Prince Jing was only in his 20s. How could he have been poisoned for decades? Judging by the look on Prince Jing's face, it was obvious that he was surprised as well. He didn't even know it himself. Do you mean that Prince Jing has been poisoned ever since he was a baby? The Emperor recalled that Prince Jing was very weak when he was born. He'd been examined by the imperial physicians several times by the time he was just a couple of months old. It improved when he grew up, but there had been no signs of poisoning. What's more, Prince Jing's pulse was taken regularly. If he had really been poisoned for decades, why didn't they find out earlier? Your Majesty, the poison isn't very strong, the physician explained. And Prince Jing's never showed signs of discomfort. It's very hard to detect just by his pulse. Then, does the poison pose any danger to his life? Asked the Emperor. The older imperial physician hesitated and shook his head. We only know that His Highness has been poisoned, but I have to take his pulse and reference the medical books before I can be certain of the peculiarities. However, since the poison has been in His Highness's body for a long time, he probably isn't in any immediate danger. The Emperor was dismayed. He'd just decided to make Prince Jing his heir. Were the heavens playing a huge joke on him? Prince Jing was born mute, which was already devastating enough, but somehow the Dai Prince had been poisoned right under his nose. Since it'd been for so long, it couldn't have been the sixth prince who did it. He was only a few years younger than Prince Jing. Then who could it possibly be? Who else wanted to harm Prince Jing? The Emperor felt both anger and guilt for not taking good care of his son. He also felt like he had let down the late Empress Xiao Huai. We must rid Prince Jing of the poison no matter what, the Emperor ordered. The older imperial physician complied. The Emperor turned around. Remembering the 4 children, he worriedly asked, will the poison be passed on to his children? The imperial physician wasn't sure, so the Emperor ordered Wang Shi to bring the children over. The elderly imperial physician took each of their pulses and discussed it with the other imperial physicians before coming to his own conclusion. The Shizi and the 3 other young masters are not poisoned. Finally, some good news, the Emperor thought. A silver lining at last. Yeah, it's been a crazy day for the Emperor. The Emperor summoned Wang Shi to question him. Since Wang Shi had always been with Prince Jing, there must have been abnormalities when Prince Jing was first poisoned. Wang Shi would definitely know about something like that. Wang Shi thought long and hard, but in the end he swore on his life that Prince Jing had never shown any signs of being poisoned. The Emperor was already a mess from the sudden announcement that Prince Jing had been poisoned, and decades ago at that. Though he found Wang Shi's answer suspicious, he had no other clues for now. You can't be suspecting Wang Shi. It's Wang Shi. Come on. Liu dazedly listened to the Emperor's questions, and he finally understood what was going on. Prince Jing had been poisoned when he was young, but how come he didn't know? This was hardly insignificant, so why didn't the original novel mention it at all? He remembered that Prince Jing had stayed healthy until the end of the book. Did that mean that if Prince Jing hadn't vomited blood this time, they never would have found out he was poisoned and they would have stayed hidden? Yeah, Wang Shi loves Prince Jing. How could you question his love? Prince Jing remained healthy his whole life except... Liu was in the middle of bringing ginseng soup to Prince Jing when his hand suddenly shook and the silver spoon clattered as it fell to the ground. He bent over to pick it up, but his hand was trembling so much he almost couldn't hold it. Just now, he'd had a very terrifying thought.
It was the Emperor and Imperial physician's guess that Prince Jing had been poisoned when he was young. But it was strange. Wang Shi, who had been in charge of looking after Prince Jing since he was a child, had never noticed anything out of the ordinary. Liu believed Wang Shi, since there was no reason for him to lie. Could it be that the poisoning had taken place even earlier, before Wang Shi started working for Prince Jing? It was impossible for the poison to show no symptoms if it was buried so deeply in his body. Could it be that existing symptoms had been overlooked? That symptom would naturally be Prince Jing's biggest weakness, his muteness. Dun, dun, dun! Liu wasn't an imperial physician, but he knew from reading palace novels that there were poisons that could cause deafness and muteness. Was it possible that Prince Jing wasn't born mute, but that it was a result of the poison? Liu suddenly remembered a small incident from some time ago. Prince Jing didn't plan on having more children because he didn't want to pass on his muteness, but Liu really wanted to have a daughter. So he'd asked around about the emperor's and empress's ancestors to calculate what the odds were, but in the end he found that none of them had been mute. That is, out of hundreds of people in over a dozen generations, man or woman, Prince Jing was the only one born mute. Genetically speaking, that was nearly impossible. But life was complicated. Liu had transmigrated at a very young age. He was hardly an expert on genetics. Anyway, it could have simply been a mistake on the part of the original novel's author. Now that he thought about it, many parts of the book that had seemed like plot holes or lazy writing to him when he had read it the first time had gradually been explained. For example, Prince Jing's name, Tianxi, was different from the other princes' names, but that was because he was originally named Tianjing and had changed his name. Well, technically the emperor had changed his name, but you know. Then there was possibly a reason that was logical for his super unlikely but somehow still existing muteness. Maybe Prince Jing was poisoned when he was very young, and it was misunderstood to be innate. Then, because of this, others never realized that he was poisoned. Of course, it was only a guess. If it was true, then that would be frightening. It would be best if Liu could find some evidence to either confirm or deny it. When Prince Jing was very young, before Wang Shi came poisoned, a scene floated into Liu's mind. The newborn Prince Jing lay in his swaddle as he stared at his wet nurse, who was swallowing a packet of medicine with tears in her eyes. Holy shit! Liu was shocked at himself. Why did he suddenly think of that? This was a secret of Prince Jing's that he never really understood. The time period was right, and it was before Wang Shi's time, but the wet nurse was the one taking the medicine, not... No, that wasn't right. Liu recalled one of his conversations with the Princess of Jinju, who had mentioned that a wet nurse could pass medicine to a child through milk to cure the child of an illness. Then, if the wet nurse took poison, would the child... Liu felt like he'd been grasping wildly at straws and suddenly grabbed the right one. Xiao Yu? Seeing him lost in thought, Prince Jing squeezed his fingers. Liu came back to his senses and resisted the urge to tell Prince Jing. He only had guesses and conjectures, so he couldn't impulsively tell Prince Jing. If the poisoning had nothing to do with his muteness, wouldn't he just be giving him false hope? The most important thing now was to help the imperial physician determine what the poison was. No matter what, I'll save you, he decided, gazing at Prince Jing. Sob, this fish loves him so much. I don't want to be a widow. Ah, we got our first official sob. I mean, the other one I counted as a technicality, but this one's real. So we are technically up to 2. Chapter 122, Fishy Solution. It would take the elderly imperial physician a couple of days to determine exactly what poison Prince Jing was suffering from. Liu recalled that he'd just finished a side mission by helping Lady Liang, and the reward was an ancient medicinal prescription. The mission was completed when they'd confronted the Sixth Prince, so he should be able to collect the reward quickly. There was a sub! Yes, there was, Momar's Rover. Liu didn't understand why the fish scamming system would reward him with an ancient medicinal prescription, but now that he thought about it, did it have to do with the poison in Prince Jing's body? He hoped it was the antidote, but he couldn't enter the system in front of the Emperor and the Imperial Physician to retrieve it. If he did, he'd pass out, and that might cause a panic. Plus, because of Lady Liang, he and Prince Jing had been up all night, so the time limit for his transformations was quickly approaching. This had clearly also occurred to Prince Jing, since he kept staring at the silver hourglass, reminding Liu with his gaze. Liu smiled and lightly pinched Prince Jing's palm. He cleverly excused himself to the Emperor, saying he needed to change, and the Emperor waved him away since he was busy talking to the Imperial Physician. Liu quietly slipped into the next tent. The tent was empty, and the countdown for his transformation time hadn't appeared yet. Liu entered the system first and collected the reward for Heart of Compassion. With the prescription in hand, Liu took a look at it. But as expected, he didn't understand it because he didn't know anything about medicine. Liu put it away. "What's the prescription for?" he asked the system. But, just as expected, the fish scamming system didn't reply. There were Imperial physicians outside, though, so Liu didn't need to insist on an answer from the system. All he had to do was ask them to take a look at it and tell him what it was used for. He had another goal for entering the system. Liu asked, probing, "System, is there a secret behind Prince Jing's muteness?" The system was aloof as always and didn't respond, but Liu had figured out a pattern from the system's non-answers. The system would only respond when the answer was definitive. The original novel had spent a lot of time describing how Prince Jing couldn't speak since he was a child, that the Emperor had given up on him early on because of it, how the other princes laughed and made fun of him for it. If his muteness was innate and there wasn't any more to it, then that should be obvious, definitive, setting in the story. Why couldn't the system answer his question? Since the system didn't answer, it meant that there was another answer. Liu suddenly became spirited. "Is Prince Jing's muteness innate?" he asked bluntly. ... If the system was silent one more time, Liu was going to jump for joy. "System," Liu asked, "can Prince Jing's muteness be cured?" ... Since it didn't say anything, that must mean it could. "Haha, I know the answer even if you won't say." Liu happily blew a kiss to the system and left giddily. When he left the system, he heard the countdown. Liu was experienced with transforming, and since the transformation duration was now a whole day, he could almost immediately use his skill again when he turned back into a fish. He waited calmly. Time was up. In a flash, he turned into a silver koi with golden scales, and even flicked his tail in midair. The next moment, he used his skill and once again became the delicate and dignified Prince Consort Yu. Since he'd said he needed to change when he left, he now switched his robes and returned to Prince Jing's tent. "Royal Father, I remembered that there was an ancient medicinal prescription in a book I'd seen before. I'd like to ask the Imperial Physician to take a look at it and see if this will be of any help with Prince Jing's poison." Liu took out the prescription. The most important thing now was to cure the poison. Even if it was no use, he had to give it a try. The Emperor knew that Liu was beside himself with worry. The elderly Imperial Physician hadn't figured out what poison it was yet, and the consort was already trying to offer up a prescription. However, the emperor was quite moved by his concern and gestured at the imperial physician to take a look. The imperial physician smiled. This is a prescription for strengthening and nourishing the body, but it won't cure the poison. Really? Liu was disappointed. Yes. The elderly imperial physician felt bad seeing Liu's dismay, but he continued. This prescription is used for strengthening the body, but if the poison is to be cured, we have to find out what kind of poison it is first. Liu nodded. The imperial physician made sense. They had to know what they were dealing with before anything else. Then, how long until it can be determined? The elderly imperial physician stroked his beard, a little chagrined. Researching medicinal books took some luck, so he couldn't give an exact date. If he was lucky, it could take days or months, but if he was unlucky, it could take years. The imperial doctor had told them the truth. The emperor wasn't really satisfied, but he knew that this was just how things were sometimes. He planned on having the imperial physicians handle the diagnosis and treatment when he sent out an imperial notice calling for famous physicians from across the country. Perhaps a physician outside of the palace would know. When he heard the imperial physician's answer, Liu clenched his jaw. He had pretty much confirmed through the system that Prince Jing's muteness had to do with the poison. He suspected that Pu Liu had administered it back then, so he had to confirm that for everyone else somehow, no matter what. Summoning physicians was one thing, but Liu could take a shortcut through the system. The system had shown him the secret with Pu Liu in it. If she was the one who poisoned Prince Jing, then there might still be clues left in her former quarters. After the elderly imperial physicians left the tent, Liu knelt and asked the emperor if he could take a look at the sealed room in Changchun Palace. As Pu Liu had made her mistake before Emperor Xiaohui passed away from illness, the emperor was the one who ordered the room sealed. She'd left an impression on him, so he remembered her immediately, but he was surprised to hear Liu mention her name. How do you know of Pu Liu? He asked. Liu was ready for the question and recounted the incident where the children had destroyed the cloth tiger. He said he felt Pu Liu's mistake was suspicious, but he had no evidence. I believe that the imperial physician's diagnosis and treatment is one solution, he added, but I might be able to help if I can find the poison or some other clue. The emperor's imagination didn't run as wild as Liu's did, so he didn't consider any connection to Prince Jing's muteness. But back then, when he was handling the matter with Pu Liu, Emperor Xiaohui had already been unwell, so he'd been both anxious and furious. There was a lot of things he didn't think through as carefully as he could have, and now that Liu mentioned it, he did think there was something suspicious about Pu Liu. As a wet nurse who had taken care of 2 other princes, it was very unusual for someone like her to make such a basic mistake. Liu was eager to help Prince Jing and wanted to confirm things with his own eyes, which made it hard for the emperor to refuse. You can go on ahead, he said after a moment of thought. Since there are some suspicions around Pu Liu, I will ask head eunuch Luo to check where she is now. I exiled her from the palace, as I recall it, so we can probably still find her. Liu thanked him profusely. He knew that Pu Liu had gone back to her hometown, since head eunuch Luo had looked into her current whereabouts. Now they could use this information. But there was no need to tell the emperor about that. After asking Liu to take good care of Prince Jing, the emperor left. Prince Jing knew that Liu had investigated Pu Liu before, and now that he brought it up in front of the emperor, it definitely wasn't something that he'd come up with on the spot. Do you think that she was the one who poisoned me? Prince Jing asked. Liu couldn't tell Prince Jing what he'd seen in the system, so he wiped his face and said earnestly, Tianxi, I can't tell you yet, but I'll do my best to investigate and cure the poison. Prince Jing nodded. What the imperial physician said earlier had touched something deep inside him as well. He was only in his 20s, accompanied by the love of his life and his children. He felt fulfilled and had never thought about what would happen after his death. But now he'd suddenly discovered that he'd been poisoned for decades. Even though the imperial physician promised to do his best to treat him, and Xiao Yu said he would look into it for him, Prince Jing had no choice but to plan for the worst. He was once afraid that Xiao Yu would leave him after his tribulations were over. He never thought that he might be the one to leave Xiao Yu first instead. Even if he couldn't ascend to the throne, he was still satisfied with how far he'd gotten. He didn't have any regrets. But it was a pity that he wouldn't be able to grow old together with Xiao Yu. Don't count your dead eggs before they hatch. You got a persistent fish spirit boy that's magical. You got the magic fish. Don't worry about it. He's not going to let you go anywhere, dude. He finally realized he loves you. You think you could get away that easy? Xiao Yu is a carp spirit. If he died, the fish would simply move on with his life. He's as bad as Liu jumping to conclusion. I mean, to be fair, the dude is poisoned, but also, like, he's been living with it for years, so I feel like he should be giving it a little more thought. The magic fish will be there for you. I guess instead of jumping to conclusions, like, he's had so much bad stuff happen in his life. He's just more used to being pessimistic and being like, well, the worst scenario, not situation. I mean, both work. Is blank, blank, blank. So, like, I don't blame him for going to that option. But, like, also, your fish boys come through for you on many occasions. So, like, give him a little credit. Like, he's covered your butt a couple times. Yet, to be fair, he also doesn't know he has a protagonist halo. I love that Liu is kind of forgetting that too sometimes, like with the dagger thing. But it's one of those situations where, like, when you get news like that, you do sometimes go to that option where it's like, all right, I need to get my affairs in order just in case. So, like, I feel both of the ways. It's not out of the realm of... I just lost my thought. Let's keep going. I apparently am getting too far down the rabbit hole of mortality discussions. It was one thing to understand something with reason, but emotions were harder to accept. Prince Jing's knuckles turned white from his grip, and his painful yet passionate eyes were locked onto Liu, wanting to hold the memory of what he looked like forever. There we go, Esper Lady, out of the realm of possibility. Thank you! I just had a brain fart. Wang Shi would take good care of the children after he was gone. Prince Jing believed in Wang Shi, and he also believed in his children, who were growing day by day. The only thing he couldn't let go of was this fish. He wanted to protect Xiao Yu for as long as possible, and he hoped that the fish would remember him forever. Prince Jing quelled the pain in his heart and jingled his jade bell to summon his confidants. Then he patted Liu's hand and wrote on Liu's palm, "They are all yours in the future for you to use." Hang on, I got a hair in my eye. Wen Qing helped me give a haircut to these bangs, and they're just the right length to poke me in the eye. Oh, not my usual style, but there. It's acceptable. At first, Liu thought Prince Jing was assigning him some helpers, but when guards who were usually hidden appeared too, Liu was shocked. What future was Prince Jing talking about? Was he taking care of things in preparation for his death? Yeah, Wen Ning and Wen King. Yeah, that sounds like bangs. Yeah. I wish I could rock bangs in my everyday life, but if I did, they'd be like up to here with my curls. So, this is close I get to bangs. Liu felt like a knife had been stabbed into his chest, and the pain was unbearable. He squeezed out a smile that was even uglier than his crying face, and did his best to distort Prince Jing's words. That's good, actually. With the men you're lending me, I'll be able to find clues in just a couple of days. Don't forget that I'm a carp spirit. There's nothing I can't do. If I haven't given up, then you can't either. He turned around, furiously wiping away the small tear at the corner of his eye as he boasted. I used to have bangs, but I'm growing them out to better cosplay these Don boys. I feel ya. I'm working on making the hair longer, but it's a very slow process for me. Made slower by the curls. Because the longer they get, the longer the curls. But I feel ya. I feel like that kind of counts as a sob. Like, it's not the full sob, but he's wiping a tear away. So we are technically... I'm going to make a row for technicals, but not quite. So we have one actual sob, and 2 tears. Okay. He wasn't completely sure whether he could really cure the poison, but he had one thing to rely on. The system had said before that Prince Jing had the protagonist hail. There it is, he remembered, which meant he would definitely ascend to the throne. Even if he was poisoned, he wouldn't be in any life-threatening danger. It was much too soon for both of them to be arranging post-death matters. I like that he's kind of getting pissed at Prince Jing, like, you're not allowed to prepare death matters because you're not going to die. You're not allowed. Prince Jing paused, realizing that this was Liu's declaration of love. He stopped thinking about it, held Liu's hand tightly, and nodded. Now that Prince Jing's poisoning had been uncovered, the Emperor rushed them all back to the palace. Liu immediately hurried to Changchun Palace as planned and even brought an accessory along, Prince Jing himself. There was no way around it. When his tyrant husband heard that Liu was going to the palace, he insisted on going with him no matter what. Though his men were already at Liu's disposal, the poisoned Prince Jing was being very overbearing and completely unreasonable, forcing himself into the already small group of people to make the trip. Liu couldn't talk him out of it, but fortunately the elderly imperial physician said that since the poison had been with Prince Jing for such a long time, it probably wouldn't affect him if he continued as usual. Liu was still a little worried, though. He occasionally glanced at Prince Jing, who never left his side. Prince Jing gave Liu a glance. No need to worry, you can start. Liu stopped hesitating and went straight to Pu Liu's room. He ordered the servants to remove the seal, and just like that, the room that had been sealed for decades finally saw the light of day. Oh, the smell in that room must have been musty as all get out. Like, even if it was clean when you closed it, like, just the, like, having something sealed. Ugh, the dust. The room was said to have been preserved as it was, but since it hadn't been cleaned for such a long time, it was full of cobwebs. Liu felt a little apprehensive. The palace servants asked if they should clean it, but Liu refused the offer. If there was clues here, it would be better to leave things as they were. Liu took a dry rag to remove the cobwebs in his way, but Prince Jing stopped him, pushed him out of the room, took a rag, and did it himself. Stuck at the door, Liu wondered which of them exactly was the one who was poisoned. Prince Jing had always been like this, though. He didn't want Liu doing work. After the cobwebs had been mostly cleared, Liu was allowed to enter the room again and take a look around. The bed was no longer in a recognizable shape. The sewing basket was still on the table, and the chair was overturned on the floor. Tianxi, do you remember any of this? Liu tried to question. Prince Jing, wanting to jog his memory. Tried to question Prince Jing, wanting to jog his memory. But Prince Jing shook his head. Liu had expected this answer. He put the chair back and sat where Pu Liu once had. After letting Prince Jing know he was about to meditate, he entered the system. If he remembered correctly, there were several secrets of Prince Jing's that he hadn't viewed yet. By his request, the system had allowed him to rewatch the secret of this room before, and now he could trade one of the secrets for another rewatch. He refused to believe that there were no clues in this room. Liu didn't exchange all of the secrets at once, instead starting carefully with just one. He once again entered the world of the secret, watching Pu Liu wait for someone, scuffle with the servant, and ingest the medicine. He didn't let a single detail escape him. He desperately wanted to be able to pause the memory, thoroughly examining the scene, and then have it continue again. This wasn't his first time reviewing the secret. He thought he'd seen everything there was to see the last time he viewed it, but he still discovered something new. Liu didn't have time to examine the new information as he discovered it, so he committed each part to memory, then exited the system to compare it to the real room. Right at the end, he'd seen Pu Liu swallow the medicinal powder. The piece of paper that was used to wrap the powder had slowly drifted to the floor under the table. The paper. Liu's heart jumped and he stood up. Hey, we might have some poison left. Fishy cures poison. Chapter 123. Was the piece of paper that once contained the drug still in the room? Liu looked around at once, eager to find it, but all he found were dust bunnies. Liu realized that the memory hadn't necessarily taken place right before Pu Liu left. Though the Emperor had sealed the room, it didn't mean that everything was still in the original place as it was in the memory. The paper that fell to the floor had most likely been cleaned up before then. Liu grit his teeth. He was a koi. He wished that he could have a koi's luck for this. He calmed himself, sat down again, and compared the details he saw in the memory to those in reality. There weren't any useful clues so far. He spotted the sewing basket and started taking everything out, not hoping for much. Under a few scrap pieces of cloth, he found a cloth tiger. Kind of like the one that Popo made for Ah Yuan recently. They're very nice for children. In the memory, Pu Liu had a half-sewn tiger, and the one here was mostly put together. It should be the same one. Liu assumed that the cloth tiger Pu Liu was working on had been torn by the children, but it seemed that she'd made more than one. It made sense. Children's toys broke easily, so they'd have several. Dabao and his brothers were the same. Liu held the cloth tiger in his hand, examining it. Then he rubbed it hard. As he rubbed it, he felt something scrape against his palm. The cloth tiger the children played with didn't have anything like that. Liu met Prince Jing's eyes. He took out a pair of scissors and carefully cut the cloth tiger open. The lining came first, which had Pu Liu embroidered on it, just like the one Liu had seen before. Then after the cloth tiger was opened, the corner of a piece of paper poked out. Liu paused, then took out the paper. It was folded, and since it had been in the cloth tiger this whole time, it was practically untouched by dust. When Liu carefully pried the paper open, he found a small bit of powder still left in it, roughly the size of a pinky nail. Was this? Liu recalled the paper that the medicine had been wrapped in. The color was exactly the same. Tianxi! Liu shouted, excited. Prince Jing nodded and handed Liu a porcelain bottle. Liu folded the paper back up and put it inside. He wasn't sure what the powder was yet, but he hoped that it had to do with the poison. He needed to get it to the elderly imperial physician as soon as possible. Liu exited the room. There was a servant kneeling outside who eagerly asked if he needed any help. Liu had finally found some clues, so there was no way he'd let someone else help. He held on to the porcelain bottle himself and dragged Prince Jing to the Imperial Academy of Medicine. Imperial physicians could usually tell the composition of a medicine just from its dregs. If it was a powder, they could probably figure out what it was, right? Liu personally handed the powder to the elderly physician who was treating Prince Jing. The imperial physician still didn't believe that this was the poison, but with Prince Jing and his consort both there, he had to thoroughly check it anyway, so he carefully sniffed the powder. Strange. The imperial physician couldn't believe it. After he received Liu and Prince Jing's permission, he tasted a small amount and immediately spat it out. I love the confidence this guy has, like, hey, we found what might be poison, like, here's the dregs of it, like, and what does the dude do? He sniffs it, and then he tastes it. Like, I love his confidence. But, like, my dude, have a little more self-control. Like, what happens if it is the poison? Like, I know the guy's been, like, dealing with the poison for years, but you don't know what's happening. Gives me a Mao Mao a little bit, yeah. Yeah, it is giving Mao Mao vibes right now. I mean, I'm glad he spit it out right away, but, like, still. He wiped his lips. Your Highness, consort, please give me a bit of time. Without even finishing his sentence, he excitedly ran off into the depths of the Academy of Medicine. Were they finally getting somewhere? Liu wasn't going to go anywhere, so he and Prince Jing sat in the academy, waiting. Definitely giving Mao Mao vibes. The longer it took the elderly imperial physician to return, the more anxious Liu grew. Prince Jing had steadied his emotions already, so he patted his head to tell him not to worry. From his robes, he took out a small golden fish with a swollen belly, strung together with 4 little fish, and gave it to Liu to fiddle with. That's adorable. I love that he just has that. Like, I know he was giving him tiny golden fish when they were, like, courting, but, like, that's still super cute that it's the swollen belly fish and the 4 babies. Like, tell me how you love your husband. I love him enough to get his fursona, like, and have, like, a model of it just to carry around. The longer it took the imperial physician to return, the more anxious Liu grew. Prince Jing had steadied his emotions already, so I just read that. When Prince Jing wanted to make him happy, he would always give Liu different golden fish. They were full of memories. Now the fish has a little fish. So cute. Yeah. They were full of memories. Liu fiddled with it for a bit, feeling troubled. What if they couldn't find anything even after all this? Then he'd continue. Even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. After the imperial physician left, there was no news at all until dusk, when the physician rushed back out with a thick medical book in his arms, missing both his shoe and sock on one foot. What was he doing? Imperial physician! Liu shouted at once. The imperial physician looked up to see Prince Jing and Liu and asked, surprised, Your Highness, consort, why are you still here? He'd completely forgotten that they were still waiting. Liu didn't mind. He looked at the medical book in the imperial physician's arms hopefully. Did you find something? The elderly imperial physician smiled and nodded. It's all thanks to you two. I finally found something. Liu's eyes shone, and he had the imperial physician sit down and explain in detail. The imperial physician discovered that the powder Liu had given him was extremely similar to the prescription for nourishing the body, but with an extra ingredient. How do you read a book so vigorously that you lose a shoe and a sock? That's a maybe it's so good it shot his shoe off. Like, maybe he's like Mao Mao and does a little dance when they get it really excited. And he just kicked it off in a fit of joy. But no, I'm right there with you. Maybe he ran too fast. In traditional Chinese medicine, a slight change could result in a huge difference. With just an single extra ingredient, the intended effect might be completely different. So the imperial physician had rushed out to find out exactly what the extra ingredient was. After extensive verification, he concluded that it was Xue Wuzi. Liu and Prince Jing knew nothing about medicine. Shuwu is a type of tree that grows at the top of snowy mountains, the imperial physician explained. It blooms and bears fruit every 60 years. The fruit is called shuwushi. It is amazing for the body, but hard to come by. Not many have appeared in this dynasty, and there aren't even any in the academy at the moment. I was lucky enough to see it when I was younger, and that's how I learned of its medicinal properties. He was surprised. It's good for the body? So it had nothing to do with the poison? The elderly imperial physician nodded. Yes, it's good for the body. But there's a rule when using shuwuzi. It can't be taken with female ginseng. If those two are taken together, it becomes poisonous. I tasted both shuwuzi and angelica in the powder, which means this powder is indeed poisonous. I know about angelica, but is that female ginseng? Like, hang on. I'm curious about this. I know I heard Wen Qing saying something about it. Let me consult her book. Yeah, it is called female ginseng. Female ginseng is the common name for Dongchuan, Angela sinensis, a plant native to China whose root is used in traditional Chinese medicine to address female health concerns like menopause symptoms and menstrual cramps. While it's a popular herbal remedy, there is limited scientific evidence to support its effectiveness, and it may be unsafe for people taking blood thinners or those with hormone-sensitive conditions. Dongqiai has been used for thousands of years in traditional Chinese medicine to treat various conditions, particularly those related to female reproductive health. People with allergies to plants in the parsley family may be allergic to dongquai. Other potential side effects include skin sensitivity to light, appetite loss, bloating, diarrhea, and fever. Cool. Thank you, Wen Qing. The imperial physician had confirmed most of Liu's guesses. Liu curled his hands into fists anxiously. Then, is this the poison that His Highness is afflicted with? Liu told the imperial physician how he'd found the powder, as well as how Pu Liu, the wet nurse, took the powder, and about his own suspicion that the poison had been transmitted to the newborn Prince Jing through her milk. The Imperial physician's eyes brightened. That is definitely possible. I'll need to look into it further, but thanks to your help, consort, I'm no longer running around like a headless chicken. He stroked his beard happily. I should be able to confirm it within half a month. Liu finally saw a ray of hope, and he told the Imperial physician that he would be waiting for good news. And although it hadn't been confirmed yet, he asked the Imperial physician to keep it a secret. Prince Jing had been poisoned for such a long time, and as of right now, Liu had determined that the culprit was Pu Liu. But why would such a small wet nurse want to harm the Emperor's son? Especially as the Empress's wet nurse. And the servant who argued with Pu Liu. From what Liu had saw in the memory, it seemed like she had taken the poison unwillingly. The servant's behavior proved that the poisoning was definitely not just Pu Liu's idea. Liu had looked for that servant as well, but he seemed quite ordinary, and Wang Shi said that servants like that were all over the palace. In comparison, Pu Liu was a wet nurse, so it felt more likely that he'd make a breakthrough on the case by looking into her. That was why Liu focused all his efforts there. Now that he thought about it, though, Pu Liu had been kicked out of the palace, but what about the servant? Could it be that the forces that poisoned Prince Jing were still in the palace, unnoticed by the Emperor? That was almost certain, but it had been over 20 years ago. The other party must be in a significant position of power by now. Could be someone that they didn't even expect. For the sake of caution, it would be best not to reveal their knowledge of any of this, in case the culprit wanted to harm Prince Jing again. After he left the Imperial Physician's Hall, Liu headed straight for Qianqing Palace. The Emperor was very happy that they'd found clues about Prince Jing's poison. Though the elderly Imperial physician hadn't confirmed it yet, the Emperor felt that the paper being found within the cloth tiger meant Pu Liu was definitely involved. Liu asked the Emperor to keep it a secret too, and the Emperor felt his caution was justified. It's all thanks to you, the Emperor said warmly. The Emperor had given Liu the title of consort and treated him pleasantly, mainly because of Prince Jing and the children, but they'd interacted more during the hunting festival. The Emperor had seen firsthand the affection between Prince Jing and Liu, as well as the effort Liu put into looking for clues. Now, though he didn't say so out loud, he trusted Liu completely. He thought Prince Jing was a great judge of character. I love that the Emperor is now like, I like this guy. This guy's a good guy. Like, my son picked well. He's got good taste, just like his father. Maybe better taste than his father. The Emperor agreed that the findings should be kept a secret. He was thinking a little further than Liu, actually. If Pu Liu had poisoned the newborn Prince Jing, then what had happened to the other two princes she'd raised, the eldest prince and the fourth prince? Some things were terrifying to consider. The eldest prince and the fourth prince's deaths were unbearably painful to the Emperor, but he had to properly investigate them no matter what. If it really hadn't been an accident. The Emperor stared at the brush next to his hand for a long, long time. No matter who the other party was, he would break them into a million pieces. He owed it to the late Empress Xiaohui. Meanwhile, after the elderly Imperial physician gave him the half-a-month deadline, Liu went to probe the system by peppering it with questions. Did Prince Jing's poison have something to do with Xue Zhuai? Could Prince Jing's muteness be cured? Would he be able to speak again if his muteness was cured? The fish, who always been scammed by the system, finally rose up and scammed the system back. The fish scamming system responded to every question with silence. It made the carp spirit feel very confident. It's only half a month. There'll be results after that, Liu reminded Prince Jing happily. Seeing Liu running around like this on his behalf to look for the poison, Prince Jing stopped worrying about whether he might leave him alone. Xiao Yu had saved him again. Prince Jing thought as he gazed at him warmly. He should keep the carp spirit by his side and repay him with everything that he had. Tianxi, if you could speak one day, what would you want to say? His muteness was definitely related to the poison, but it hadn't been confirmed yet, so Liu couldn't tell Prince Jing outright. But it would be fine if he looked forward to it, right? Prince Jing had actually thought about this before. He smiled as he wrote, I would want to say, Royal Father, and call out to the children. Most of all, his brush stopped and he looked at Liu. Most of all, I want to call your name, he wrote. Liu sniffed, emotional, and imagined it. If he could really hear Prince Jing say his name, he wouldn't even be afraid to turn into fish bones and fish ash. That's another technical tears. So 3 for technical tears, 1 for real. Half a month passed under Liu's excited watch. During this time, head eunuch Luo, who was looking for Pu Liu on the emperor's orders, sent a message that Pu Liu had passed away on the road back to her hometown. Her death further muddied the circumstances around Prince Jing's poisoning. Although that branch of their investigation had come to a halt, the elderly imperial physician gave them a satisfying answer to the other. He'd been looking into medical records for half a month and even tried the medicine on himself. He concluded that the poison Prince Jing was afflicted with was shu mixed with female ginseng, as Liu expected, but Liu found it hard to come to terms with the physician's plan to cure it. The poisonous effects of shu were hard to cure. The elderly imperial physician believed that the only way to fight poison with poison, but it was extremely dangerous. The battle between the two poisons would make Prince Jing very weak, and if he wasn't careful, he might fall victim to the second poison as well. The reason the elderly imperial physician dared mention such a plan was that there was an antidote for the second poison at imperial physician's hall. Compared to Shu Wu Shi, this other poison was much easier to deal with. Liu hesitated, but Prince Jing had already nodded in agreement. Xiao Yu had tried his hardest to pave a pathway for him. How could he not walk down it? After Prince Jing took the second poison, he threw up increasing quantities of black blood. The elderly imperial physician said the poisons were fighting each other. Prince Jing tossed and turned in pain until his clothes were soaked with sweat. It wasn't until he stopped throwing up the black blood that the imperial physician let him take the antidote. Afterward, he fell into a deep sleep. Liu stayed next to the bed, distraught for him. The emperor came to visit several times and comforted the children, but perhaps because the other poison was too strong, Prince Jing still didn't wake up after he'd been given the antidote. The emperor was almost beside himself with worry, and the elderly imperial physician couldn't figure out what was going on. Prince Jing's pulse was weak, but his heart was still beating. Liu was afraid that Prince Jing would drift into a coma, so he talked to Prince Jing every day and told him stories about the children. One day, Liu was telling him about how the emperor had made the decision to send Da Bao and the others to the imperial study room to be tutored by reputable teachers, but that the teacher didn't know what to do when faced with such cute, lively children. Da Bao was extremely focused in the class. As a 1-year-old, he could sit completely upright. After he started class, he'd worked out his previous mistake with his Wa. Erbao and Sanbao had a great relationship, so great that they would take turns listening to the lecture and playing. That teacher wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry, and Sibao slept through the entire class. Who did he take after? We know. We know who he took after. He took after you, my friend. Liu was speaking rather emotionally and had turned around to pour himself some water when a hoarse voice sounded nearby. Xiao Yu. He almost thought he was hearing things. The voice was so hoarse that it was almost grating, and the pronunciation wasn't quite right, but there was something familiar about the profound emotion in it. Liu turned around to meet Prince Jing's cold, pond-like eyes and dropped the teacup he was holding. Well, well, well. Chapter 124, Fishy Teacher. Prince Jing would often call out Liu's name in his mind, but now that he'd actually made a sound, it seemed as if he couldn't quite believe it. He stayed frozen in place. Liu rushed over. Tianxi, you're awake! He cried out with joy. You can speak, right? Even though he'd already guessed as much a few days ago from the system's silent answers, a guess was still a guess. The thought that Prince Jing would definitely recover kept him going the entire time, helping him stay hopeful even after Prince Jing was given the antidote and still didn't wake. You definitely forgot he couldn't speak and thought this was just him waking up. No, I mean, I guess I could have been doing like quotations when he's writing, but it's just easier this way. No, but yeah, he can speak. And the first word he's technically ever said is Xiao Yu, which that kind of hits hard in my heart. Like, that's wow. Even though he'd already guessed as much a few days ago from the system's silent answers, a guess was still a guess. The thought that Prince Jing would definitely recover kept him going the entire time, helping him stay hopeful even after Prince Jing was given the antidote and still didn't wake. Right? It's adorable. And he really had heard Prince Jing's voice just now because Liu pinched his thigh hard. It really hurt. Prince Jing himself didn't know why this had happened. For the past couple of days, he hadn't been able to wake up, but he could hear. He heard everything Xiao Yu said to him. Every time Xiao Yu spoke to him, he would respond in his heart, but Xiao Yu had no way of knowing. In order to stop Xiao Yu from worrying, he tried his best to wake up, and when he finally opened his eyes before he realized it, he'd already uttered Xiao Yu's name. The sudden strange sound was hoarse and broken, like the tip of a sword dragged through gravel. It was unexpected to Prince Jing too. This was him? They are so cute. He could make sounds now? His throat was itchy and painful. The whole time that he was asleep, it had felt like he was on fire. Prince Jing barely believed it. He froze and hesitantly said, Xiao. He suddenly stopped. The sound definitely came from his chest. It was him. Prince Jing was shocked. Liu was a little stunned, then belatedly hugged him. His eyes were full of tears, but he happily shouted, Tianxi! Tianxi! Prince Jing hugged him back firmly, wanting to say something else, but he was too weak. Once he realized that he could speak, he found that it wasn't easy to put what he felt into words. There were lots of words that he had heard before and could read, but he suddenly didn't know how to say them. That's a fair point. He could only hug Xiao Yu, his chin placed affectionately on Xiao Yu's shoulder, and he responded with a heavy, mm-hmm. Like my Lanzan! Baby's first words. Liu was overjoyed that Prince Jing could speak. He told Wang Shi first, and Wang Shi's reaction was even more dramatic than Liu's. He fell to his knees, crawled over, and stared at Prince Jing. Your Highness? He asked, trembling. Prince Jing shut his eyes. Wang Shi. He knew who he was, of course, but he wasn't used to speaking yet. Just that one word was enough to make Wang Shi burst into tears, though. Your Highness, you're favored by the heavens. I have no regrets in this life anymore, Wang Shi exclaimed, smiling and crying. God, we love Wang Shi. Oh, 10 out of 10, sweetest man. The elderly imperial physician was hurriedly summoned to Prince Jing's manor. After he heard Prince Jing stutter a bit, he was shocked. He took Prince Jing's pulse and announced it as an unexpected surprise. We actually have a picture. It's a very sweet picture. The poison has been cured now, but I didn't expect that the muteness would also. Everyone had always said Prince Jing's muteness was innate. The possibility had never occurred to the physician, right? But this muteness had disappeared with the poison, which meant that it was a result of the poison, not congenital. This imperial physician had been in the palace for decades now. He knew Prince Jing had been silent since birth, but if it was the result of poison, then he must have been poisoned shortly after he was born. There were only a few people who could have done it. But the elderly imperial physician was only in charge of curing Prince Jing of the poison. With the poison now gone, as well as his muteness, the imperial physician barely even had time to celebrate, so he didn't give the implication too much thought. Liu had thought of something. He threw the imperial physician a look. Imperial physician, since His Highness is cured from the poison and can speak now, does this mean he won't pass on the muteness or the poison to his descendants? The imperial physician didn't quite understand what he was implying, but he answered just the same. Since His Highness's muteness was caused by the poison, and the poison is now cured, the children will not inherit it. Please rest assured, Your Highness consort. Liu's smile nearly split his face in half, and he batted his eyelashes at Prince Jing. Prince Jing's heart trembled. He understood what Xiaoyu wanted. Since his muteness was cured, there was no need for contraception in the future. They can have a baby girl or boy. Prince Jing silently nodded. All right. You have my word. Yep, he wants a baby daughter, a baby girl so bad. Just like Xiaoyu, he wanted a daughter too. They both do. With the prince and his consort exchanging loving glances, the imperial physician felt like the air had gotten warmer somehow. He cleared his throat. Though the poison is now gone, His Highness is still weak and should continue taking medicine for a while, he said. The strengthening prescription the consort has is quite good for that. I will add some throat-soothing medicine as well, and I hope Your Highness recovers quickly. The elderly imperial physician was so happy that he couldn't help himself rambling on, eager to explain the medical reasoning behind everything. Liu and Prince Jing just stared into each other's eyes, gripping each other's hands tightly. Their hearts were overwhelmed with joy. They almost couldn't hear anything else. Wang Shi brought the imperial physician to the palace to report to the emperor. When the emperor heard the news, he rushed over to Prince Jing's manor, where Prince Jing, supported by Liu, knelt and tried to call him royal father. The emperor's feelings were extremely complicated. He felt happiness at regaining what he'd lost, but he was furious that he'd been deceived by a traitor. It wasn't appropriate for the emperor to say too much, so he told Prince Jing to stand and patted him on the shoulder. All of his emotions were let out in a long sigh as he said, Tianxi, get well soon. There are still a lot of matters for you to attend to. He stared at Prince Jing for a long time with tears in his eyes. Prince Jing had only just regained his ability to speak, and so he could only say a few words, but the emperor was very satisfied. But they couldn't tell the outside world that Prince Jing could speak again. If they found out that his muteness had been fake, then what was real? Pu Liu was reportedly dead, but there was no evidence yet. And the midwife who delivered Prince Jing and the imperial physician, who diagnosed him back then, still needed to be investigated too. It was true that the emperor hadn't heard Prince Jing's cries when he was born, so there had to be something more to it. The bladed realization that Prince Jing wasn't born mute was like a sharp rock, shattering the decades-long peace within the harem. Luo Ruosheng and the Imperial Guards were currently investigating the cause of Pu Liu's death. Until the truth was revealed, the Emperor needed Prince Jing to pretend to still be mute so as to not alert their enemies. Prince Jing and Liu could roughly guess what the Emperor's plans were, and they agreed. The children had been attending classes at the palace recently. When the Emperor received the news that Prince Jing had been cured of poison, he brought the children with him to visit. Liu had only told them that Daddy Prince Jing was feeling unwell and couldn't see them for a bit. The children didn't quite understand, but they were sad for several days because they couldn't see either daddy. The Emperor had ordered them to study in the Imperial study room partially because the children were smart, but also because he wanted to distract them. Now that they heard Daddy Prince Jing was getting better, quote-unquote already healed, the children were overjoyed. They ran into the room one by one and grabbed onto Prince Jing's trousers. Just like Ayuan does. Prince Jing smiled and hugged each of them, bringing them all up to his lap. Liu was worried that he was too weak for this, but Prince Jing shook his head at him. He'd missed the children while he was unconscious. The children hadn't been hugged in a while, and all of their eyes were rimmed red. Sibao missed Dad. Sibao lay on his dad's chest, softly expressing how much he missed Daddy Prince Jing. I love that they call him Daddy Prince Jing, like, in this. That's adorable, and I love it, because it's fantastic and true. He is their Daddy Prince Jing. Prince Jing patted the top of his soft head. He couldn't pronounce the C from Sibao, so he could only say, Bao, Dad missed. Dabao, Airbao, and Sanbao perked up their ears. Daddy Prince Jing just suddenly spoke! The fish children were used to Prince Jing's muteness. They didn't know what a disability was, and back when they were very young, Liu had kindly explained to them that their daddy Prince Jing couldn't speak because he was sick. Fish Dad didn't want the children to think of Prince Jing as different. He did his best to make the children believe that he and Prince Jing were the same. Unexpectedly, the fib became the truth. Prince Jing was sick, so naturally, there'd come a time when he was cured. Daddy's all better now, Dabao suddenly realized. Before the children could jump up, Liu hurriedly told them that Daddy Prince Jing wasn't completely healed yet, so they couldn't tell anyone else. This was a secret between the children and their fathers. Liu stuck out a pinky, asking them to keep it secret. Dabao, Airbao, Sanbao, and Sibao loved keeping secrets for Fish Daddy. They fought to be the first one to complete the pinky promise. Sibao even especially linked pinkies with Prince Jing. Daddy, Sibao, same. Sibao had made a new discovery. He smiled as he pointed at Prince Jing, then himself. Among the children, Sibao wasn't great at speaking. Prince Jing also wasn't great at speaking since he was recovering. They were on the same level. Little Sibao was now a fish who'd gone to school. He knew what a teacher was. Hurriedly, he offered, Sibao, teach Daddy. Love it. Prince Jing smiled and was about to agree when Liu picked Sibao up. Let go of Daddy Prince Jing and let me do it. Liu pursed his lips at Prince Jing, then smiled widely at Sibao. Sibao was suddenly frightened by his fish daddy's smile. He felt a bit confused. He hadn't even done anything yet, and Fish Dad had already eliminated him? Liu really meant it when he said he would teach Prince Jing. It would be easy, since he'd taught the children how to speak already. Teacher Yu was quick to prepare his lesson. He held a peach blossom pastry and smiled. Tianxi, you can only eat if you get it right. Prince Jing smiled back slightly and nodded. Was Liu trying to start his education? But it wasn't bad to have a reward. There was no way Liu could start by teaching Prince Jing to say Dad. Prince Jing was a little out of practice. He could read, but it came out a little different when he tried to say it. It was because he didn't have any real experience with reading out loud. Liu decided to start by teaching him pinyin, since that was how they'd taught it back where he came from. Yu Lao Shi quickly filled the paper up with writing. Tian Shi, did you know Bo Po Mo Fo Di Ti Ni Li? Prince Jing didn't know it, so he smiled and asked for help. Xiao Yu. His hoarse voice was still quite unpleasant, and the elderly imperial physician said it would be like that for a while. But every time he said Liu's name, it sounded magical, stirring the fish's heartstrings and making his scalp go numb. Teacher Yu almost got distracted, and he tapped sharply on the blackboard, blushing. No interrupting! Read it with me. Prince Jing the student filled up with a bunch of knowledge on consonants and vowels. He was the first person in ancient times to learn about pinyin, but he didn't find it too difficult. Since he listened carefully to Liu and picked things up easily, he soon realized that Xiao Yu seemed to be teaching him some form of basics. After he got the hang of vowels and consonants, Xiao Yu wrote out the most commonly used pinyin and taught him how to string it together. Prince Jing stumbled a bit trying to combine it all and would occasionally make mistakes, but Li Yu told him to take his time. Prince Jing slowly learned how to say first a word, then a phrase, and then people's names. Perhaps it was fate. Xiao Yu's name was the first one he called, and the only one he never got wrong. That's so sweet. To help Prince Jing improve faster, Liu gave him the task of reading out loud. That usually happened in the morning, as Liu believed that the morning was when one had the most energy and was in the best state for learning. Perfect for reading practice. Morning reading was a daily occurrence. Teacher Yu had student Prince Jing start with the simple, "Man at birth is fundamentally good in nature," and work his way up to storybooks from there. He would often give personal demonstrations and surprise checks. So, man at birth is fundamentally good at nature is the first line of Three Characters Classic, a piece of classic Chinese literature often used to teach children. Tianxi, how is this pronounced? Teacher Yu flipped to a certain page of a certain storybook, pointed to a certain line, and pretended to casually listen for his answer. Student Prince Jing glanced at him and read emotionlessly, "Husband." His cold face and voice tickled Liu's heart. He just wanted to hear him say husband. What about this one? Partner. He pronounced both words flawlessly. Liu was over the moon, thinking that he was sneakily taking advantage of his student. In reality, Prince Jing knew exactly how many times he'd read those words, and he was absolutely going to make Liu pay for it in a different way in the future. Oh, boo. Oh, ho, ho. Liu treated his prince student and his fish students differently. He was stricter with Prince Jing. The children would get a peach blossom pastry even if they just blew a bubble, but he would only give Prince Jing a peach blossom pastry if he was in a good mood, even if Prince Jing's mouth was dry from reading all day. But Prince Jing didn't complain. He smiled and ate the peach blossom pastry from Liu's hand. One of Yu Lao Shi's fingers would always inevitably end up in Prince Jing's mouth. Scandalous. Or as Lan Wangji says, shameless. Teacher Yu couldn't bear it anymore, and there was no need for him to bear it anymore either. It's okay to take a break from learning how to speak once in a while, Teacher Yu said shyly. Why don't we first have a daughter? My, Teacher Yu, where was your mind at? Chapter 125, Heart of the Matter. Liu had his guesses as to who had orchestrated the poisoning of baby Prince Jing, but he was just Prince Jing's consort. If he tried to look into harem incidents from several decades ago, he'd face a lot of roadblocks, so it was best to just let the emperor investigate. For now, there was nothing he and Prince Jing could do but trust the Emperor. Other than that, there was a horrifying fact to consider. In this world, Prince Jing was cured, but the Prince Jing in the original book must have been mute his whole life. No wonder the children he had, either in the world or the book, could all speak. It wasn't because he was lucky, it was because his muteness wasn't genetic. In this world, the truth was fortunately revealed, but in the original novel, there was no carp spirit to help him figure out the truth. Liu felt that they had gotten lucky, but he was also scared. Although the secret to Prince Jing's muteness had been dangling in front of him for a while, he'd almost missed it. Prince Jing had ended up vomiting blood out of panic as a direct result of Liu choosing to complete the side mission, Heart of Compassion, and the reward for the mission was a prescription that had to do with Prince Jing's muteness. Adding Shu Wang Shi to the prescription created the poison Prince Jing was suffering from, while adding extra healing ingredients helped Prince Jing recover now. One never knew what surprises the fish scamming system had in store. Sometimes, if one did a good deed, one was rewarded. With the side mission finished, Liu had been able to help Lady Liang, which had also resulted in him and Prince Jing overcoming one of their most difficult obstacles so far. The end of the road was in sight. After the Emperor took everyone back to the palace, he'd ordered the guards to throw the sixth prince in prison on the charges of holding Lady Liang hostage and suspected attempted regicide. No one dared speak up on the sixth prince's behalf. Since the sixth prince had dared to try to harm him, the Emperor was well within his rights to dispose of him, but he couldn't actually bring himself to kill him. Keeping him alive was a sign of extreme benevolence. This time, concubine Shang knew that the sixth prince had committed an unforgivable crime, so in the spirit of self-preservation, she shut herself in Yangfu Palace, didn't come out unless absolutely necessary. The Emperor reprimanded her severely, but as she wasn't directly involved with the sixth prince's actions, he allowed her to keep her concubine title. In front of the Emperor, she was usually just a tremulous quail, and it was precisely this quail-like personality that saved her in the end. As for Lady Liang, she no longer felt anything for the sixth prince. The shock of everything that had happened caused her to miscarry the same night she was taken hostage, and without another word, she packed up her belongings and left to live with her parents. Oh my goodness. I feel so bad for her. Like, not only was she treated not great by her husband, like, even before he tried to choke her out, but she even lost her baby, which is never easy for anyone, but especially the mother. Like, I just feel bad for her. Yeah, she really cannot catch a break. I agree, Annika. The famed consort Liu was released after a bout of investigation and reunited with the eighth prince, while the seventh prince and his mother, concubine Li, learned from the emperor that they had been part of the sixth prince's plot as well. The seventh prince learned that although he might know someone, he couldn't know their heart. The two young princes matured quite a bit thanks to the events of the hunting festival. And since the emperor had sent Prince Jing's 4 sons to the imperial study room, the 7th and 8th princes were no longer the youngest ones there. Now they were uncles! The 2 little princes puffed out their chests proudly. They've got the right idea of it. The emperor was laying the way for Prince Jing, and he explicitly told the young princes that Prince Jing was the one who had cleared them of any suspicion. As a result, the 2 princes made sure to take special care of their nephews. With the imperial study peaceful and harmonious, the emperor was very satisfied. If the 7th prince and 8th prince had a good relationship with the 4 children, that meant they were on good terms with Prince Jing, so there was no need to worry about what might happen in the future. Head eunuch Luo, meanwhile, was ordered to investigate Pu Liu's cause of death. In the end, it was revealed that she had died from poison. The emperor ordered the elderly imperial physician to assist, and he found that there was residual poison in her body, the exact same that Prince Jing had suffered from. Shu Wangshi mixed with female ginseng. That made it clear that Pu Liu had taken the concoction herself and passed the poison to the newborn Prince Jing through her milk. The poison must have taken hold of her after she left the palace. It was lucky that she didn't directly give Prince Jing the poison, or he might not have lived for more than a few months. Since the Zhu Wangshi was passed through her milk, its toxicity was weakened, so instead of death, its only effect was that Prince Jing couldn't speak. Only. The poison that stayed in Prince Jing's body caused him no other harm. I mean, I feel like that's kind of enough harm, all things considered. That was where the poisoner's shrewdness lay. If Prince Jing had been poisoned directly and died, the emperor would have launched a strict investigation. But if he was poisoned indirectly and simply appeared to have been born mute, the emperor would at most have the imperial physicians take a look at him. He'd pray to the heavens, but he wouldn't punish anyone else. But this way, even if the emperor and Empress Xiaohuai's Dai son remained in this world, it was almost the same as having no son. Well, he was just so extraordinary, like he beat the odds anyway. The emperor was very sure that he and Pu Liu held no grudge against each other, so he didn't understand why she would do this. Pu Liu must have been acting on someone else's orders. Luo Ruosheng continued to track down her family members. He found out that her family had fallen victim to a plague not long after she passed away, and they had perished as well. And of the 2 midwives that delivered Emperor Xiaohuai's child back then, one of them fell off a cliff, her body never recovered, and the other one was run over by a carriage after she got drunk. The imperial physician who diagnosed Prince Jing had already been quite old at the time and passed away shortly after he retired and returned to his hometown. Not a single one was left alive. The emperor, who was familiar with the court's methods, immediately thought it was most likely that all of these people had been deliberately silenced. He recalled that many things had seemed quite fishy back then. The investigation thus came to a grinding halt, only halfway done. It really gave the emperor a headache. Since it concerned Prince Jing, he summoned Prince Jing and his consort to the palace. Right? I especially like that the emperor had already decided Prince Jing would succeed him even before he was cured. It really shows the merit that Prince Jing has, that even in a time when being mute was such a huge stigma, and it feels especially blunt to say it, but roadblock to his path in life, he still showed that he was qualified enough that even if he stayed mute, he would be a good emperor. So yeah, I agree. These days, the emperor knew how smart the consort was. Liu always had unique insights, and it was Liu who found the poison in Pu Liu's sealed room and saved Prince Jing. The emperor thought that he might as well ask Liu for his opinion. Under the emperor's orders, Prince Jing quickly came to the palace with Liu. Prince Jing's speaking skills were improving day by day. Other than a hoarse voice and being a little slow at conversation, there were no problems. Even if he stopped improving now, the emperor wouldn't mind. Tianxi, how are you feeling? The emperor asked. Prince Jing slowly answered, very good. Though Prince Jing could speak now, he had no desire to chat with the emperor and was usually quite concise. The emperor, on the other hand, had prepared a bunch of questions for Prince Jing. He wanted to ask after his son, but the words just wouldn't leave his mouth. Wang Shi had told the emperor that Prince Jing woke up early every day to read out loud in the manor, reading everything loudly from the 3-character classic to storybooks. Prince Jing looked cold and aloof. The emperor had no problem imagining him fighting and killing, but reading storybooks out loud. Prince Jing had a little book tucked into his sleeve. When speaking to the emperor, he would sometimes take it out to glance at it. The emperor knew that Prince Jing used to prepare notes, but these weren't needed anymore. What was the booklet for? When Prince Jing wasn't paying attention, the Emperor snuck a glance at it. It was just a bunch of strange, messy drawings. My consort wrote this, Prince Jing explained, smiling. That's right, Liu doesn't have great handwriting because he's not used to writing in calligraphy. Liu was afraid that Prince Jing would suddenly forget how to pronounce a word, so he wrote out a list of pinyin for commonly used words in case of emergencies. Prince Jing always had it with him. Even if he didn't forget any pronunciation, he would take it out to look at it. Even having Liu here with him didn't deter Prince Jing from wanting to show off. The Emperor felt that since Prince Jing had been cured of his muteness, his relationship with his consort had reached new heights. He'd initially found it amusing, but by now he'd been exposed to it so many times that he was numb to it. This was the result of seeing too much. It's like, oh my god, this lovey-dovey couple again. Back to business, after chatting with the young couple a little, the Emperor fully explained the current situation. Royal Father, how brilliant to have found so many clues already. Liu was quick to flatter him. The Emperor had launched a quick and thorough investigation, so the news had come quite quickly. Liu hadn't expected that everyone who was directly involved would be dead. The Emperor cleared his throat, unnerved by the sudden praise. It's just that the leads have all become dead ends, so I do not know what to do now. That was exactly what Liu was waiting for. He got to the heart of the matter at once. The people might not be here anymore, he said, but things are. There are some things that can't be changed. Royal Father, perhaps you should look into Shu Wuji. The elder imperial physician had said that Shu Wangji only grew in the peaks of snowy mountains, but there were none around the empire. As a result, Shu Wangji was so rare that even the Imperial Academy of Medicine didn't have any. It's suspicious, Liu said. Why would Pu Liu have an ingredient that even the imperial physicians can't get their hands on? And Shu Weiji is usually a strengthening ingredient, but once it interacts with female ginseng, it becomes poisonous. I believe that the person behind this must be medically knowledgeable, at least when it comes to Zhuangji's poisonous properties. According to the elderly imperial physician, the formula of the poisonous powder was the same as the ancient prescription Liu had, but with the addition of Zhuangji. Those who were unfamiliar with its properties would have assumed that the Zhuangji was added for a further nurturing and strengthening effect. Perhaps that was another way to hide the poison. Liu fretted as he spoke. Zhuangji was rare in the empire, so was it possible that it had to do with another country? There were no foreigners in the emperor's harem, though. For example, even though the empire was allied with Jinju and they were friendly with one another, the emperor would only be able to accept a marriage between the princess of Jinju and a prince who wasn't due to inherit. He would never accept someone from Jinju as one of his own concubines. That was how he'd always done things. Liu strongly suspected that Pu Liu's Zhuangji came from another country, but where could it have come from if there were no foreigners in the palace? Could Pu Liu have been from a foreign country? The more Liu thought about it, the stranger he thought it was, and he found himself asking the question out loud. The emperor was a bit surprised. He fell into deep thought. I will order a new investigation into Zhuangji, he said after a while. Realizing that the emperor didn't want to elaborate, Liu didn't ask any further questions. When he left Qianxing Palace, Liu gently nudged Prince Jing with his elbow. Tianxi, do you know where the nearest snowy mountains are? Prince Jing couldn't speak while they were outside, so he simply wrote one word into Liu's palm. Luolan. What's Luolan? Liu was confused. He was a transmigrated fish, and his geographical knowledge was pitiful. Jinju was the only neighboring country he knew, and that was only thanks to the original novel. He'd never heard of Luolan before. Prince Jing wrote, Luolan has snowy mountains. 30 years ago, royal father toppled Luolan. So it was a country that no longer existed. No wonder he'd never heard of it before. Could Xue Ji be from Luolan then? Liu had already thought it was possible that the person who harmed Prince Jing had a grudge against the emperor. Could it be that people from Luolan had infiltrated the palace and tried to take revenge on the emperor? Or he recalled the glint in the emperor's eyes earlier. Could it be that the emperor had relations with a Luolan woman and brought her into the harem? But his favorite was still Empress Xiao Huai, and out of jealousy she hurt Prince Jing? The more Liu thought, the more dramatic the imagined storyline became. Prince Jing smiled and pulled on Liu's sleeve. Come with me, he signaled with his eyes. Liu followed Prince Jing for a little while and was brought into a slightly familiar-looking courtyard. Liu glanced at the plaque. It was Jingtai Hall. He'd stayed in Jingtai Hall for a couple of days when he first turned into a fish, but it had been over a year since then, and Liu had spent far longer in Prince Jing's manor. Jingtai Hall was now a little unfamiliar, so he didn't recognize it immediately. The servants of Jingtai Hall bowed to their master when they saw him. Prince Jing pulled Liu straight into the bedroom. My. Liu blushed. He'd been clamoring for a daughter recently, but he'd sucked essence several times already, to the point that Prince Jing was developing dark circles. There was still no sign of a daughter. It was too hard without the one-shot-and-done stat. Liu was so eager for a daughter, he'd even grown a little superstitious, wondering if Prince Jing's manner just wasn't conducive to having a daughter somehow. He'd just been wanting a change of scenery. Prince Jing was a great husband. He gave Liu what he wanted the moment he wanted it. Jingtai Hall was a great choice. It was emotionally significant for both of them, since it was technically where they first met. Technically, that was on a road. Just saying, you were flopping on the road probably towards Jingtai Hall, but if we're talking first meetings, you met as a fish as you were gasping for breath after being caught by a cat. Let's be real. Anyway, still cute, still emotionally relevant. Jingtai Hall was a great choice. It was emotionally significant for both of them, since it was technically where they first met. Prince Jing, meanwhile, knew that there was something in Jingtai Hall that possibly had to do with Luolan. But in the time that it took him to grab it and turn around again, he found the carp spirit under the quilt, dewy-eyed, trying to seduce him. And that is where we are going to end our reading for today. But silly Wei Ying forgot something at the beginning of our stream, just to commemorate our 100 subscribers. And that is that I got a special figure, just a single one, of a series I don't have yet, called Nancy Museum of Mystery. I thought it'd be fun just to open one kind of as a little yay 100, because I really do appreciate it, everyone. It's kind of crazy to me that I already have 100 people that have decided this channel means something, or enough to follow it, because I really wasn't focused on gaining followers. I'm just kind of doing my own thing here, and it's kind of cool that people like that. So I'm going to continue doing my thing and reading. Well, thank you, Esper Lady. I enjoy them too. All right, we're not going to look at the card. So these are the choices, because I'll show you one side and then the other. So this is possibilities, and these are the other possibilities. Kind of like this one, and I like the green one. The green one looks cool. Let me see which ones I like on this side. The fairy one's kind of cute. This one's kind of cute.
Ooh, I do like this one. That one's pretty. All right, let's see what we got. Right? I like the Nancy one, Nancy brand stuff too. They're some of them are the bubbles, so some of them are the ones we started with. So yeah, I like Nancy. Make cute things. Good quality too. Ooh. I feel... Oh, okay, that's the plastic. Ooh, I think I got the one I liked. The one that's a little edgy. Oh, how do I not break this? How are you arranged? How are you arranged? Where does this plastic wrap come off? I'm just gonna rip it from the top. Or you know what? I have scissors. I could just use scissors. Kind of working. Yay! It worked. Okay. So here it is. That's super cute. Kind of fits with the almost October theme. And also a little bit with the burial mounds thing we're going for today. I like it. It's really cool. So let's see what she's called. She is the Raven. Oh, that totally works out with the burial mounds Wei Ying theme. Perfect. I couldn't have chosen better. I'm happy about that. Nice. Okay. There's one more thing I'd like to show off. And it's actually because of the cosplay, but there was no good way to work it into the ad-lib performance. So we have Cabbage Lawanji, who's actually official merch. And we got our chicken, because there's a ridiculous number of chickens in Danmei. But then we also have Radish Wenning, my many radishes. And then we have, where is he? He's hiding from me. Radish Ayuan. Of course, got a bottle of Emperor Smile that I made. But yeah, I was very proud of my baby radish and my zombie radish. Yeah. So I wanted to show those off, and I literally made like 100 of these today because I had the day off. So I will be passing out these at the next convention I go to. Right? Because that's when I'll be doing the Spice Witch, so I will literally be carrying around all this in a bucket. But I thought it was hilarious too. So yeah. I think initially this is like supposed to be a bottle holder, like a water bottle holder. But I've used it to hold like a gigantic plushie Emperor Smile. And now I shall use it for chilies. My cauldron. And then I actually made this myself. This is my Lamanji. No pattern, just kind of freehanded it. You can kind of tell. But he's been to a couple cons with me, and I love him. Yeah. His ribbon's seen better days. But that's okay. But yeah. I could give you the full look of the cosplay now that I'm no longer in character. But yeah. This is the look. Ta-da. Then I made this hat. It has holes for my ears because I'm Foxian. And I've got a tail. But yes. This has been a lot of fun, and I can see for like, I love how you even have the brand. Yeah. I made this too. So yes, the brand. I like the extra little bit. It's just a tattoo. You can find it if you're looking like henna tattoos. So, oh, you read that part on the stream tonight where he gets branded? Yeah, I was there until like the turtle part, and then I had to come do my own stream. But yeah. No, this has been a lot of fun. I can see myself doing this for some of the other milestones. What day does Halloween fall on? Could see maybe doing the. Oh, it falls on a Friday. Could see maybe doing something on Thursday. Maybe a cosplay on Thursday for Halloween. I know this would be the perfect one to do because Baby Boy's birthday is on the 31st. We would see about something on the 30th. Maybe I'll do the Spice Witch Wei Wuxian on that Thursday. Spice it up. But yeah. Anyway, this has been so much fun. As always, thank you so much for joining me. We will be doing our regular Thursday, and I will be back to my normal self. Less exciting, I know, but all that. And I will see all of you lovely people then, hopefully. And whoever's watching later, I hope you enjoyed and had some fun. I hope my acting wasn't too terrible. Thought I'd just pepper in some little bits. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Yeah, not every time you get a bedtime story from Wei Ying, right? Well, One King is a wonderful lady, so she definitely deserves it. Another lady that got that short end of the stick there. But yes. Thursday, 8 CST. I'll see you then. Good night.